Let's start with the least disturbing experiment and gradually move into the truly shocking ones. The first experiment involved a group of dogs. Known for their loyalty and intelligence, these dogs were chosen to study the boundaries of animal behavior and obedience. Initially, the researchers taught the dogs simple commands, rewarding them with treats for their compliance. But as the experiment progressed, the approach took a sinister turn. The rewards were replaced with electric shocks for disobedience, and the intensity of these shocks increased over time. What started as a basic training exercise soon became something much darker. The dogs, eager to please at first, grew confused and fearful. They struggled to understand what was expected of them, hesitating before responding to any command. The shocks continued, growing stronger with each perceived mistake, until the dogs stopped trying altogether. They learned that no matter what they did, pain would follow. This condition, known as learned helplessness, broke their spirits, reducing these once loyal animals to shells of their former selves. The experiment was a harsh demonstration of how fear and trauma can destroy even the strongest wills. Next, we move to an experiment involving cats, animals known for their agility and curiosity. The cats were put into complex mazes designed to test their problem-solving abilities under intense stress. But these weren't ordinary mazes. The walls shifted unexpectedly, spikes emerged from the floor, and bright lights flashed unpredictably, all while the cats navigated the narrow paths. A wrong move triggered an electric shock, small at first, but increasingly severe with each error. The cats, usually so graceful, became frantic. Some tried to leap over the walls, only to find themselves trapped. Others froze in terror, their fur bristling as they struggled to find a way out. The constant shocks and changing environment overwhelmed them, and soon they stopped trying to solve the maze. The once sharp and quick-minded cats were paralyzed by anxiety, their natural instincts crushed under the weight of relentless pressure. The experiment revealed the cruelty of pushing animals to their psychological limits, where their survival instincts were twisted by fear. Now we come to an experiment involving monkeys, highly social and intelligent creatures. Researchers wanted to see what would happen if these animals were deprived of all social interaction from birth. Baby monkeys were taken from their mothers and placed in cold steel cages, isolated from light, sound, and touch. They were left completely alone, separated from any form of social contact. As the days turned into weeks, the baby monkeys began to display strange and disturbing behaviors. They rocked back and forth, clung desperately to the bars of their cages, and screamed into the silence. When finally allowed to interact with other monkeys, they were unable to understand even the simplest social cues. Some responded with violent aggression, while others retreated into themselves, unable to connect with others. The experiment inflicted irreversible damage on these animals, robbing them of the ability to engage in normal social behavior. We now move to an experiment that crossed the boundaries of genetic manipulation. Scientists attempted to merge the DNA of a rabbit with that of a jellyfish to create an animal that could glow in the dark. The result was a rabbit that emitted a soft green glow. While the experiment was deemed a success in terms of its intended outcome, the consequences were far from expected. The glowing rabbit began to show signs of distress. Its fur fell out in patches, exposing glowing skin beneath. The animal grew increasingly agitated, refusing to eat and displaying erratic behavior. Over time, its movements became sluggish and uncoordinated, its once bright eyes dulling. This experiment highlighted the dangers of genetic manipulation, as the animal's altered nature caused it more harm than benefit. The glowing rabbit, a product of human ambition, suffered in ways the researchers had not anticipated. Next, we examine an experiment that took control to a terrifying new level. Researchers implanted electrodes into the brains of rats, enabling them to control the animal's movements with the press of a button. The rats were made to turn, stop, climb, or swim at the researchers' command with no ability to resist. But some of the rats did resist. Despite the increasing intensity of the signals, these rats fought to regain control over their own bodies. They shook, twitched, and even chewed at the electrodes embedded in their skulls in a desperate bid for freedom. This experiment showed that even the smallest creatures possess a powerful instinct for autonomy, a fundamental drive to control their own bodies and actions. Finally, we reach the most chilling experiment, one that plays with the very essence of life and death. Researchers turned their attention to frogs, Known for their ability to regenerate, they developed a method to stop the frogs' hearts and then revive them using a combination of drugs and electrical shocks. At first, the frogs appeared to return to life, their hearts beating once again. But something was different. The revived frogs moved with a strange stiffness, their eyes vacant and unresponsive. Over time, their bodies began to decay, even as they continued to live. Their skin rotted, emitting a foul stench, and their movements became more jerky and unnatural. The experiment had crossed a line, tampering with the boundary between life and death. The frogs, though alive, were mere shadows of their former selves, existing in a state that defied nature. Their tragic fate serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of pushing scientific boundaries too far. These experiments, conducted in the name of progress, reveal a disturbing side of scientific inquiry where the pursuit of knowledge overshadows compassion. The animals subjected to these tests were not just data points, they were living beings capable of experiencing pain and fear. The lasting impact of these experiments is a sobering reminder of the ethical responsibilities that come with scientific research. As we reflect on these stories, we must consider the true cost of advancing knowledge at the expense of the lives and well-being of other creatures.